I drag my aching body up the ladder to the F divided by V Northwind, my legs protesting each rung after 14 hours hauling nets. The Sitka harbor is quiet tonight, just the familiar creaking of wooden hulls against moorings and the distant bark of a sea lion. My shoulders burn as I roll them back, salt crusted at my hairline. Just need to log today's haul, then crash for 6 hours before tomorrow's early tide. I push open the cabin door, hand freezing on the weathered frame. Rachel hunches over my laptop, spine curving toward the screen with a focus she never bothers to give my actual work. Her slender fingers tap frantically at the keyboard, and beside her my fishing journal splayed open, pages carefully turned to reveal coordinates penciled in my cramped handwriting. "What are you doing?" The question scrapes out of my throat. Rachel jumps, her hand flying to her throat. "Kate, I didn't expect you back so soon." She doesn't close the laptop, doesn't even try to hide what she's doing. A flash drive sticks out from the USB port like a neon accusation. Those are my private logs. I take a step forward, noticing the stack of journal pages already photographed, placed in a neat pile. "It's for my marine biology thesis." Rachel shrugs, tucking a strand of clean hair behind her ear. "The department needs data on sustainable fishing grounds to complete our study." The casual way she says it, like she's asking to borrow a sweater, sends heat crawling up my neck. My hands curl into fists at my sides. Those locations took me years to find. My voice remains level, though something wild pounds behind my ribs. Years of trial and error, marking underwater ridges, tracking seasonal migrations that nobody else bothered to document. Rachel's eyes narrow slightly. "It's family knowledge, Kate. You didn't invent fishing." The memory hits like a slap. Last week's dinner, Mom passing the potatoes, barely glancing up when I mentioned Rachel's research team had damaged one of my depth sounders. "Your sister is doing important scientific work," Dad had said, cutting me off. "Equipment can be replaced." Mom's smile had been tight. "Rachel will make the Howard name mean something in academia." As if my work keeping this boat running, paying their mortgage, funding Rachel's education meant nothing. I step forward, spine straightening. "Those are proprietary locations that keep this business afloat, that keep you in that fancy university program." Rachel stands, matching my height but not my breadth. "You're being ridiculous. The university needs access to local fishing data, and our family has the most comprehensive records in Southeast Alaska. So you steal them? Without asking?" "I shouldn't have to ask." Rachel's voice rises, righteous indignation flushing her cheeks. "We're family." The harbor lights cast shadows across her face, suddenly making her look like Mom, the same entitled tilt of the chin, the same certainty she deserves whatever she reaches for. Before I can respond, footsteps sound on the deck. Mom and Dad appear in the doorway, their expressions shifting from smiles to concern when they register the tension crackling between us. "What's going on?" Dad's voice booms in the small cabin. Rachel turns to them immediately. "Kate's trying to block my research. She's acting like her fishing spots are trade secrets or something." Mom's hand finds Rachel's shoulder. "Honey, what do you need?" Not asking me what happened, not asking why I might be upset, just instantly circling the wagons around Rachel. "She's copying my logs without permission." My voice sounds strange to my own ears. "That flash drive contains every productive fishing location I've mapped for the past 5 years. Dad's face hardens. "Kate, don't be selfish. This is for Rachel's future." The word selfish lands like a hook in my gut. How many times have I heard it? When I asked for new navigation equipment instead of funding Rachel's summer program. When I suggested Rachel could work deck shifts to learn the business. When I dared suggest my future mattered too. "Get off my boat." The words come out quiet but firm. "Now you're just being dramatic." Mom says, sighing, "I'll help you down." I move toward the door, shoulders rigid. "All of you." They leave reluctantly, Rachel clutching the flash drive, my parents muttering about ungrateful daughters. I stand at the rail, watching them walk down the dock, then return to the cabin. Alone, I slide open the hidden compartment beneath my bunk. Inside rests the folder of ownership papers I signed 18 months ago, buying out my parents' shares of the Northwind with a second mortgage I haven't told them about. Soon they'll learn what I've been planning in silence all this time, and they'll wish they'd been more careful about who they betrayed. I smooth my only dress shirt as I pull into my parents' driveway, steeling myself for our weekly ritual. The familiar Cape Cod with its weathered gray shingles looms ahead, smoke curling from the chimney against the Sitka sunset. 3 days since I ordered Rachel off my boat, and not a single apologetic call. Grandpa Howard sits on the front porch rocking gently, his gnarled fisherman's hands resting on worn denim. His eyes catch mine with an intensity that makes me pause. Mike and Thomas stay behind. Kate, he nods, voice low. You might want this tonight. He presses something into my palm, a folded note. Read it before you go inside. I unfold the paper in my truck. His shaky handwriting delivers a gut punch. They've been showing the north wind to people without telling you. Check your bag twice before you leave tonight. The fishing journal I'd stashed in my canvas bag suddenly weighs 1,000 pounds. I tuck Grandpa's note inside it, next to the folder of ownership papers I've brought as insurance. When I push through the front door, voices from the dining room freeze me in place. The conversion shouldn't take more than 6 weeks, says a man's voice I don't recognize. And the permits transfer seamlessly? That's Dad, using his businessman tone. Once the sale finalizes, yes, the Northwind's fishing rights would convert to research permits under university jurisdiction. The stranger again. My feet carry me forward before my brain catches up. 5 faces turn toward me: Mom, Dad, Rachel, and 2 men in pressed khakis who reek of academia. Kate. Mom's voice pitches too high. You're early. The table is set with the good china, the plates reserved for Christmas and mortgage payoffs. A bottle of champagne chills in the center. Am I interrupting something? My voice sounds distant in my ears. Dad stands, gesturing to the taller of the strangers. This is Dr. Patterson from Coastal Marine Institute, and his colleague, Dr. Winters. Dr. Patterson extends his hand. Pleasure to meet the captain I've heard so much about. I don't take it. Instead, I look directly at my father. Why are you discussing permits for my boat? Mom laughs nervously. Don't be dramatic, Kate. Sit down and have some wine. We have wonderful news. I remain standing as Rachel beams from her seat. I got accepted to the PhD program. Full funding and everything. Congratulations, I manage, eyes scanning the papers scattered across the tablecloth deck plans of the Northwind, with sections highlighted and relabeled. What's all this? Dad clears his throat. We've found a buyer for the Northwind. The university wants to convert it to a research vessel for their climate study program. He says it casually, like announcing a change in dinner plans rather than the dismantling of my life. And my fishing permits? The words scrape against my throat. Would transfer with the sale, Doctor. Patterson explains, leaning forward. We'd maintain them under university control for occasional commercial catches to supplement research funding. I see. I remain standing, my knuckles white against the back of the empty chair. And when were you planning to tell me? Mom waves dismissively. We're telling you now, honey. It's a wonderful opportunity. Rachel will have first priority on research expeditions. Through the front window, I spot my deckhands, Mike and Tomas, leaning against their trucks in the street right where I asked them to wait after Grandpa's cryptic call this morning. We've already shown the boat twice, Dad continues. Dr. Patterson thinks we can close by month's end. Rachel reaches for the champagne. They're going to rename it the Howard Research Vessel. Across the table, Grandpa catches my eye, giving the barest nod toward my bag. Before you continue, I say, voice steadier than I feel, I have something to share. The room falls silent as I reach into my canvas bag, fingers finding the leather folder I've carried for months, waiting for exactly this moment. I place it on the table, turning it to face my father. What's this? Dad frowns. Ownership papers for the Northwind. I slowly open the folder, revealing the title with Howard C. LLC prominently displayed. Signed and registered 18 months ago. Dr. Patterson leans forward, academic curiosity piqued. These appear to be legitimate transfer documents. Dad's face flushes crimson. You can't have possibly afforded to buy us out. Second mortgage. I pull out bank statements, laying them beside the title. I've been making payments for a year and a half. Mom's hand flies to her throat. You went behind our backs? Like you're doing right now? I meet her eyes. Planning to sell my livelihood without even mentioning it? This is different, Rachel protests. This is for science, for my career. My career pays for this house. The words taste bitter but necessary. My career funded your undergraduate degree, Rachel. On a boat you're now trying to sell from under me. Dr. Patterson examines the documents with growing discomfort. These transfer papers appear completely legal. Mr. Howard, you signed over your ownership shares on, he squints at the date, February 12th of last year. Dad's face crumples with disbelief. I never signed these. You did. I pull out another paper. The same day you asked for $15,000 for roof repairs. Remember signing for that loan? I will be no. Recognition flickers in his eyes, followed by fury. You tricked us. No, I say quietly. I protected myself. There's a difference. Grandpa suppresses what might be a smile behind his weathered hand. This is a family boat, Mom insists, voice rising. Your grandfather built that business for all of us, not just you. And I've kept it running for all of us. I rest my hands flat on the table, but apparently that wasn't enough, so now it's just mine. The champagne sits forgotten as Rachel's academic dreams collapse in real time. Doctor. Patterson awkwardly gathers his papers, murmuring something about family matters and contacting university council. Through the window, I see Mike and Tomas straighten, watching the house like sentinels. They've been waiting for my signal, just as I've been waiting for this moment when my family finally sees me not as the daughter they can use, but as the captain who owns the tide. Morning fog rolls across Sitka Harbor as I secure the last line to the cleat. 3 weeks since I revealed the ownership papers, and the war has only intensified. I wipe salt spray from my face, squinting at the figure marching down the dock toward me. Dad's jaw works back and forth before he even reaches speaking distance. His boots thunder on the wooden planks like drum beats announcing battle. This isn't over, Catherine. He thrusts a manila envelope at me. My attorney says we have grounds to contest. You deliberately deceived your own family. I take the envelope without opening it. I paid fair market value. To the penny. You went behind our backs while living under our roof. Your roof? I feel heat rising in my neck. The second mortgage on the Northwind paid for that roof. For Rachel's college. For Mom's knee surgery. Dad's face reddens. We're family. Everything was supposed to be shared. Funny how sharing only works one way. I tuck the envelope into my jacket. I'll have my attorney review this. He jabs a finger at the Northwind. Your mother is calling everyone we know. Nobody in Sitka will buy your catch once they understand what you've done. The threat settles like a weight. My phone buzzes the 5th call from Mom's sister this morning. The smear campaign is already working. Go home, Dad. I turn back to my preparations, refusing to let him see how his words land. As his footsteps fade, I pull out my phone, clicking to the messages from Rachel's sobbing voicemails claiming her career is finished without access to the Northwind. As if her entire academic future hinges on stealing my life's work. 3 hours later, I sit across from Maggie Sorensen in her Juneau law office, the harbor visible through rain-streaked windows. She slides the contested documents back into her leather portfolio. Your purchase is ironclad. She taps her pen against the desk. Your parents signed these transfer documents voluntarily, with notarization. The fact they didn't realize you were the buyer behind Howard C. LLC is irrelevant. Relief loosens the knot in my chest. They're saying I manipulated them. Kate, you paid 20% above market value. Maggie's eyes narrow. If anything, they took advantage of you. Kate. I glance at my watch. I need to get back. We're heading out at dawn. One more thing. She slides a folder toward me. I confirmed your new mortgage contract in Dutch Harbor. Processing plant manager there says your supply contract is secure whenever you're ready. The word whenever hangs between us. We both know it's becoming a question of when, not if. Back at the harbor, the familiar smell of salt and diesel usually centers me, but today the sight of Grandpa's truck in the parking lot quickens my steps. He sits on a piling, a wooden box beside him, watching gulls circle overhead. There's the captain. His weathered face creases into a smile as I approach. Not feeling much like one today, I settle beside him. Dad came by with legal threats. Grandpa snorts. James always thought a loud voice made him right. He pats the wooden box. Brought you something. Inside lies a stack of yellowed fishing logs, handwritten entries dating back 50 years. Coordinates, catches, weather observations, a lifetime of knowledge. Your grandmother used to say I loved these waters more than her. Grandpa's voice softens. She wasn't wrong, but she understood. It's in our blood. He taps the logs. I was saving these for whoever proved worthy. I knew from the time you were 10 and insisted on baiting your own hooks, it was you. You're the true captain among them. My throat tightens. They don't see it that way. I fought my own brothers for the right to run our father's boat. He points toward the water. Those fights never end. They just change form. Every captain chooses between pleasing others and following their compass. From his pocket, he draws out a brass compass, the glass face scratched from decades of use. This guided me through 50 years of storms. He places it in my palm, closing my fingers around it. Navigate your own course, Katie girl. The metal warms against my skin as I nod, unable to speak. The confrontation comes Thursday morning, just as we're loading for a 3-day run. I spot them from the wheelhouse. Dad, Mom, Rachel, and 4 research assistants carrying equipment cases. My deckhands notice too. Mike steps onto the dock, arms crossed. Jaden and Thomas flank him without a word. The 3 form a human barrier between my family and the Northwind. We have a schedule to keep, Mike says, voice steady. Mom steps forward. This is a family matter. Step aside. We work for Captain Howard. Jaden doesn't budge, and she's on a tide. Rachel pushes past her assistants. Kate, you're destroying years of research. The university needs these waters. The university can fill out permit applications like everyone else. I call from the deck, the brass compass heavy in my pocket. Dad's face darkens as he turns to the research team. Load the equipment, she won't stop you. As the assistants move forward, I raise my hand. Step on my vessel without permission, and I'll have you arrested for trespassing. The harbor master appears, clipboard in hand. Is there a problem here? Dad wheels toward him. My daughter is blocking university research. We're filing an emergency injunction. Against the registered owner of the vessel? The harbor master checks his clipboard. Howard C. LLC has all permits in order. If you're not crew, you need to clear the loading area. Rachel's assistants exchange glances, slowly backing away. Mom's eyes fill with tears as she clutches Dad's arm. I feel a moment of wavering, then remember Grandpa's words about choosing my course. That night, I gather my crew in the galley. Steam rises from coffee mugs as I spread charts across the table. Dutch Harbor, the Bering Sea. New grounds, far from Sitka's watchful eyes. These contracts offer each of you 15% of the catch instead of 10. I slide the papers forward. I understand if this is too much family drama for anyone. Mike scans the document, then looks up. When do we leave? Dawn. I trace our course on the map with my finger, without looking back. Thomas raises his mug. To the Northwind. As they clink cups, I feel something unfamiliar rising in my chest. Not anger, not hurt, but liberation. Tomorrow, the horizon will open before us, and for the first time, I'll be truly at the helm of my own life. I think of the compass in my pocket, pointing towards something that was always mine to claim. The pre-dawn darkness wraps around the Northwind like a promise as I guide her through the narrow channel leading from Sitka Harbor. My hands steady on the wheel, knuckles white not from strain but resolve. Each turn of the propeller carries us farther from the only home I've known, but with every nautical mile, the vice around my chest loosens a notch. We're clear of the last marker. Captain. Marco, my first mate of 7 years, stands beside me in the wheelhouse, voice low as if we're stealing away rather than claiming what's rightfully mine. Take her to cruising speed. I nod, allowing myself to look back at the fading lights of Sitka. The town sleeps, unaware that the Northwind won't return to her usual slip. I didn't expect the sight to sting so much. The satellite phone on the console buzzes for the 3rd time in 20 minutes. Dad again. I let it ring until silence returns. They're gonna keep calling. Marco raises an eyebrow, the lines around his eyes deepening. Let them. I pull the throttle forward, feeling the deck rumble beneath my feet as the Northwind responds. The first genuine smile in weeks spreads across my face. We've got new grounds to find. The phone buzzes again before I finish speaking, this time with a text message alert. Coast Guard has been notified of vessel theft. Return immediately or face charges. The anger I've tamped down flares hot in my belly. I grab the phone, thumbs flying across the screen. Vessel documentation filed with Maritime Administration shows Howard C. LLC as sole owner. Try again, Dad. I forward the title documents to the harbor master and 3 other captains in the fleet. Insurance against whatever story my father's spinning on shore. Marco whistles low. Your dad playing the stolen boat card? Harsh. Not as harsh as trying to sell my livelihood out from under me. I tuck the phone away, focusing instead on the chart plotter, where I've marked our course to the Bering Sea grounds. New territory for the Northwind, but I've spent months gathering intelligence from other captains, studying current patterns, mapping underwater ridges where king crab gather. By mid-morning, calls shift to Rachel's number. I finally answer after the 7th attempt. Kate, please. Her voice catches with familiar practiced vulnerability. My entire research program depends on access to those waters. Just one more trip, my professor. Should find another boat. I cut her off, watching a pair of humpbacks surface off our starboard side. Or better yet, apply for proper research grants instead of stealing proprietary data. It's not stealing when it's family knowledge, Rachel protests, the entitled whine in her tone making my jaw clench. Family knowledge bought with my mortgage, my fuel, my labor. I take a deep breath. The Northwind is no longer available for Howard family use. Good luck with your thesis. I hang up, switching the phone to silent, and tucking it into the galley drawer. Through the window, I watch Marco and the crew preparing crab pots on the deck, their movements synchronized from years working together. They all chose to come with me, even knowing it meant burning bridges with the Howard name in Sitka. By afternoon, the radio crackles with familiar voices. Captain Jensen of the Fortitude, then Bartlett on the Sea Witch. Heard you finally broke harbor lines, Howard. Jensen's gruff voice comes through. About damn time. About damn time. Your old man's been telling tales at the coffee shop, Bartlett adds. But seems the harbor master set him straight about who owns what. The Howards aren't making many friends today. Their support loosens something in my throat. I've known these men my whole life, watched them treat my father with deference while he leveraged the Howard name. Now they're choosing sides mine. 3 days later, we dropped pots in waters I've never worked before. The crew is quiet, tense, knowing everything rides on this haul. I've staked everything on being right about these grounds. When we pull the first string of pots, they come up so heavy the hydraulics strain. Massive king crabs, shells gleaming, tumble onto the sorting table. The crew erupts in whoops and hollers while I stay silent, running calculations in my head. At these weights, we're looking at a record haul. That night, the processing plant manager called personally to confirm our arrival time. Word is you've hit the motherlode, Howard. We'll clear dock space for you. After the call, I gathered the crew in the galley. Beer appears from the cooler, and I don't object when Marco slides a bottle my way. For the first time, I tell them everything. The years of my parents treating the boat as family property, while I carried the payments alone, Rachel's academic theft, the final betrayal of trying to sell the Northwind out from under me. To Captain Howard, Marco raises his bottle. Who finally realized blood doesn't entitle people to steal your future? To the Northwind, someone else calls, and Dutch Harbor, our new home port. I take a long pull from my beer, feeling the cold liquid wash away years of swallowed words. My phone shows 17 missed calls and a social media notification. Mom's public post about family betrayal getting ripped apart by commenters who know the truth. I delete the notification without reading further. Their voices can't reach me here, on my boat, surrounded by people who respect boundaries and honest work. For the first time in my adult life, I'm navigating by my own charts, and the water ahead looks clear all the way to the horizon. 3 months later, we were at the new port, and I collected more evidence and team to protect my legacy. The shadow of the Northwind stretches across Dutch Harbor's choppy waters as I spot them. 3 figures huddled against the wind, looking small against the industrial backdrop of processing plants and supply warehouses. My parents and Rachel, exactly as I expected when the harbor master called to warn me. Captain, Mick says beside me, his weathered face creasing with concern. Want us to send them packing? I shake my head, watching them take in my vessel, freshly painted hull, new hydraulic system gleaming under the weak Alaskan sun, crew moving with practiced efficiency as they prepare for tomorrow's run. I'll handle this. 3 months of distance has hardened something in me. I stand straighter as they approach, noticing how my father's confident stride falters when he sees the improvements. The solar panels, the upgraded navigation array, the name freshly repainted with Howard C. LLC beneath it in professional lettering. Catherine, my mother calls, using my full name like she always does when trying to establish authority. Her voice carries across the dock, brittle with forced warmth. The harbor is buzzing about your operation. I don't move from the rail. You're welcome to come aboard my vessel. One conversation, then you leave. The emphasis on my doesn't escape them. They exchange glances, the same silent communication they've used my entire life when plotting strategy. Rachel clutches a leather portfolio against her chest like a shield. Permission to come aboard, Captain? My father's attempt at humor falls flat. Granted. I lead them to the galley, recently renovated with the profits from our Record King crab haul. The space feels smaller with them in it, but for once, I don't shrink myself to accommodate them. I gesture to the bench seats, remaining standing. Coffee? I offer, pouring myself a cup without waiting for their answer. My father leans forward, hands clasped between his knees, his negotiation posture. Kate, we've been thinking. It's time we put this unpleasantness behind us. We're still family, my mother adds, reaching across the table as if to touch my hand. I move it away, wrapping my fingers around my mug instead. Rachel looks different, thinner, with shadows under her eyes I haven't seen before. The university is establishing a new marine conservation research program, she says. We could form an exclusive partnership. Your fishing data, my research, the Howard legacy, combining traditional industry with conservation science. The rehearsed quality of their pitches hangs in the air between us. I take a slow sip of coffee, letting silence stretch until my father shifts uncomfortably. We could easily restructure ownership, he continues, voice dropping into the reasonable tone he uses with difficult clients. A family co-ownership arrangement. No need for all this. He waves his hand at the boat. Independence. I set my mug down carefully and reach beneath the table for the folder I prepared weeks ago, knowing this day would come. Before you continue, I say, laying it flat between us, let's establish what family has meant up until now. I open the folder, revealing the first-page photographs of equipment damaged during Rachel's research excursions. Date stamped, with repair invoices attached. 6 depth sounders at $3,200 each. Navigation computer water damage, $4,700. Winch system overloaded beyond safety parameters, $8,900 replacement. I flip the page. Logs documenting every time they'd borrowed fuel, gear, or crew hours, without compensation or acknowledgement. Family resources. I say, tapping the column of figures totaling over $120,000. The third page makes my mother inhale sharply bank statements showing mortgage payments on their home, Rachel's tuition payments, emergency medical bills after my father's gallbladder surgery. Perhaps, I say, my voice steady despite the heat rising in my throat, we define family differently. My father's face darkens. Now wait just a minute. No, the word cracks like a whip. For 32 years I've waited. I believed family meant mutual support, not endless taking. I look directly at each of them. I have the emails where you discussed selling my livelihood to fund Rachel's PhD program, dated just a few days after I paid off your second mortgage. Rachel's eyes widened. Dad said you were planning to sell anyway. I stop, breathe. Every penny I earned went back into this boat or into supporting you all. Meanwhile, you planned to sell it from under me. My mother's eyes fill with tears, but for once they don't move me. We only wanted what was best for everyone. For everyone? I laugh, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Or for the daughter whose achievements you actually valued? My father stands abruptly, knocking the bench backward. After everything we sacrificed for you, this is how you repay us? With accusations and... Sit down, George. The voice comes from the doorway, where Grandpa Howard stands, sea bag over one shoulder. And for once in your life, listen to your daughter. Pop, my father sputters. You don't understand. I understand plenty. Grandpa moves beside me, his presence a solid wall of support. You've been treating her like a workhorse instead of a daughter since she was 16. I watched it happen and said nothing. That ends today. Rachel's face has crumpled, real understanding dawning for perhaps the first time. I close the folder. These are my terms for any future relationship. I say quietly, acknowledgement of past exploitation, respect for my boundaries, and the understanding that this vessel and business are mine alone. My father stands again, slower this time. You always were stubborn, just like your grandfather. Come on, Helen, Rachel, we're not going to beg. But as they file toward the door, I catch the shift in my mother's face, manipulation giving way to genuine shame. Rachel lingers, her fingers trailing on the galley table. I never saw it, she whispers. I'm sorry I never saw it. It's not enough. But it's a start. A year later, the morning sunlight streams through the windows of my Harborview office, casting golden patterns across the maps that line the walls. Each chart marks successful fishing grounds. The Northwind has claimed this year territory that belongs to Howard C. LLC, not family obligation. I trace my finger along the newest editions, pride warming my chest as I remember the record haul we brought in last week. A knock at the door pulls me from my thoughts. Greg, one of my first mates, stands in the doorway holding a stack of mail. Supply contract renewals came through, he says, dropping the envelopes on my desk. And this, he hands me an envelope with my parents' return address, their formal handwriting instantly recognizable. Birthday card? He asks, noticing my hesitation. I nod, tucking it into my desk drawer unopened. Third one since I left, each one a little less stiff than the last. Outside my window, both vessels of my expanding fleet rock gently at their moorings. The north wind gleams with fresh paint, and beside her, the Aurora purchased 3 months ago when we secured the Bering Sea contract stands equally proud. My eyes drift to the framed photo on my desk. My crew gathered on deck after our first independent season, faces sun-weathered and grinning. The phone rings. I recognize Grandpa's number immediately. My captain granddaughter, he greets, voice gruff with affection. The Finnegan boys just told me about your Sustainable Fishing Award, making quite the name for yourself. I laugh, warmth spreading through my chest, just using your compass like you taught me. Best thing I ever gave away, he says, speaking of which Rachel called yesterday. My hand tightens on the receiver. And? Got her own research grant. University funded, no Howard strings attached. Pride colors his voice. Said to tell you she's charting her own course now. Something inside me loosens at his words. The weekly calls with Grandpa have become my truest family connection, a bridge back to what family should be. He never asks for anything except my stories. My therapist says that's how I'll know I'm healing when memories of what happened don't immediately spark anger. These days I think of my family with something closer to measured distance than rage. After hanging up, I grab my jacket and head down to the docks. The young woman waiting by the north wind stands straighter when she sees me, her eager expression barely masking her nervousness. Captain Howard? Her handshake is firm despite her anxiety. I'm Jessie Tanner. Thanks for considering my internship application. I study her 19, maybe 20, with calloused hands that tell me she's no stranger to hard work. Her family's small-scale operation has struggled since her father's accident last year. I recognize the look in her eyes, determination mixing with desperation, a willingness to work herself to exhaustion for family obligation. First rule, I say, unclipping Grandpa's compass from my belt and placing it in her palm. This stays with you during training. Not because you'll get lost, but because it reminds you to navigate by your own stars. Confusion crosses her face. Second rule, your worth isn't measured by what you give away. The words emerge from a place of hard-won wisdom. It took me 32 years to learn that. Understanding dawns in her eyes slowly, like sunrise over the Alaskan coastline. Back in my office later, I sign the last documents for our upcoming contract, our biggest yet. My signature flows more confidently now, no longer the hesitant scrawl of someone waiting for permission. Tomorrow we sail for new grounds. The community respect we've earned comes not from the Howard name, but from the integrity with which we operate. Sometimes I wonder if my parents understand what they lost wasn't just a boat, but the chance to know their daughter. The last light of day catches on the water as I step onto the north wind's deck. I run my hand along the familiar railing, feeling the solid weight of belonging. This vessel carries my future now, not my past. I look toward the horizon, where tomorrow's possibilities wait. The water stretches endless and bright, mine to navigate at last.